Alright, so for this video, we are going to continue with the simple example on how to find the very basic values for some trigo function. Okay, so again, all these are very basic, but I think I would like to discuss with you so that you recall back how to get the very basic value. Okay, all the value for the very basic trigo function. So here, if let's say they ask you without using calculator and find the exact value of the following. So again, when you see the word exact, means that you have to keep your answer in fraction form if possible. Okay, don't keep the answer in a long decimal number. All right. Okay. So now, without using calculator, so if let's say they want you to get the value for cosecant 150, how can we do that? All right. So again, I will draw the graph one more time. So I'm having all sine, tangent, cos, and then after that I'm having theta negative 180 minus theta, negative 180 plus theta, and also negative 360 minus theta. All right, and then for the negative angle, I'm having negative theta here, then negative 180 minus theta, negative 180 plus theta, and also negative 360 minus theta. Okay, so these are the values that I have. All right, this is the graph that I refer usually. Okay, so let's say as an example, how are we going to use this summary graph to find out cosecant 150? Okay, so cosecant 150, generally I will change it become 1 over sine 150 first of. Okay, so sine 150, 150 is in which quadrant? It's in the second quadrant, right? Hey, I make a mistake here, correct or not? Okay. I don't know what I'm doing just now. Sorry. For the red color part, shouldn't have any negative value. Okay. That is. So for the second, 150 is in the second quadrant. So second quadrant is 180 minus theta. So that means when you write out, it should be sine 180 minus 30. Correct or not? To get the 150. So the theta is 30. Okay. So why do I need this theta? Is because of I actually need to find out the value for sine 30. Okay, so the basic angle, so sine 150, the value should be equal to sine 30. Just that, before you continue, you have to decide whether is it positive or negative. So 150 is in the second quadrant. So second quadrant for sine is positive. Therefore, this is positive. Okay, so what is the value for sine 30? Then you need to draw the two triangles that I asked you all to memorize last time. If let's say you don't have any, you don't have the ES calculator, right? So if this is 30, then this is 1, 2, and square root 3. So this is 60. Then another triangle will be 45 degree one. Alright, so 45 and 45. So this is 1, 1, and square root 2. So I can't remind you every single time. So if that's possible, try to memorize all this yourself. Okay, so if I want to get the value for sine 30, look at this triangle, it will be half of, so it will be 1 over half. So your final answer equals to 2. Okay, so when we discuss this question, it looks very easy, right? But when you try on your own, if you are not familiar with the graph and method, you will find that it's quite complicated. All right, so you have to practice a lot if you really want to use this method to find out the value. Okay, then how about, let's say we want to find the value for secant 4 pi over 3. Okay, so again, secant 4 pi over 3, I can write it become 1 over cos, right? So 1 over cos, and then 4 pi over 3. Okay, so 4 pi over 3, if you change it become degree, it is 240. Right, so for 240, which quadrant it belongs to? It belongs to the third quadrant. 240, right? So when you rephrase it, you should rephrase it become 180 plus theta. So it become 1 over cos. 180 means pi, so pi plus theta. Theta is pi over 3. Therefore, pi plus pi over 3 equals to 4 pi over 3. Okay? And from here, you know that your theta is pi over 3. Therefore, the value should be 1 over cos pi over 3. That means cos 60. Okay, but before that, you have to decide here, okay, whether is it a positive value or negative value. So 240 is in the third quadrant. So for the third quadrant, tangent only positive. That means for cos, it will be negative. Alright, then you should have negative 1 over cos 60. So cos 60, what's the value? Square 1 over 2 also. So eventually you have the value negative 2. Alright, so this is how we do it. Hopefully you can recall a bit if let's say you already forget. Okay, then now we go for part number C. Okay, so for part number C, again, they want to get cosecant negative pi over 4. Alright, so maybe you can pause the video here and then you try out on your own first and see whether you can get the answer correctly or not. Okay, so cosecant negative pi over 4, when I write out, it should be 1 over sine, then negative pi over 4. Okay, so for negative sine negative pi over 4, when I write it out, it should be like this, or no need to change anything. Okay, but you know that the theta, okay, the theta itself here is the basic angle. So in this quadrant, this is a fourth quadrant, right? In this fourth quadrant, is it sine positive or negative? It should be negative. Therefore, you should have negative 1 over sine pi over 4. Okay, because the theta is basic angle, so you write sine negative pi over 4 is actually equal to sine pi over 4. But you need to decide the quadrant. You need to look at the quadrant and decide positive or negative. Therefore, it should be a negative because it is in the fourth quadrant. So what is the value for sine pi over 4? So for sine pi over 4 is sine 45 degree. You have 1 over square root 2. Therefore, when you simplify, you have negative square root 2. Okay, so again, all this example looks like very simple and it looks like not so important for your exam. But if you really try out, some of the questions are actually all these concepts are very important. Okay, because sometimes you need to use the idea and also the concept, okay, to try to get some answer or try to get to the next step. Okay, so maybe you didn't realize. So sometimes, that's why sometimes students will find that they start halfway because they don't know how to continue from here and so on. So please make sure all the small details here you need to know. You know how to find the value. Okay, so this is how we actually find the value for the very basic trigo function. Okay, then now if you continue to example 4. Okay, so for example 4, they want you to solve the equation. Okay, when you want to solve the equation, it is very similar like what we learned before in AS level. Okay, the method is still very similar. Again, I'm going to use this graph, this figure, okay, to show the answer, to help me to find the answer. Okay, so give me some time. I will cut and paste again this figure so that you can refer it here. Okay, so I hope that you can see this. Okay, maybe I do some adjustment first. Okay, so now this is too big, right? Make it smaller. Okay, then maybe I put it here so that you can see it. Alright, so again, I will solve maybe, actually I will solve all the questions here but if let's say you are interested, right, you can actually pause the video first, you attempt it yourself first, then after that only you go through this video and check your answer to see which step we do it differently, okay, or which step you do it wrongly if you cannot get the answer. Okay, so for part number 1, they want to get cotangent theta equals to 1.2. So for part A, I can write become 1 over tangent theta equals to 1.2, and therefore you have tangent theta equals to 1.2. Okay, so last time what we learned is like, I will tell you find out the basic angle, right? So similar thing happened here. Please try to find the basic angle first. The basic angle should be 39.8. Okay, how to get a basic angle? Tangent inverse 1 over 1.2 So you get 39.8. And then now only you start to find out the angle that you want. So in this question, they are asking for negative 180 to 180. Okay, so maybe I go through the first two quadrants first. First two quadrants means 0 until 180. Okay, so they want tangent positive. So tangent for positive means that only first quadrant is tangent positive. Therefore, the answer that you get is the basic angle itself, theta. So 39.8 is the answer that you want to get. Okay, and then after that you go for 0 until negative 180. So which is in this direction. Okay, all these concepts you learned it before, just that I try to recall back a bit so that you remember what we did last semester. Okay, so you need to consider these two angles, the fourth and the third. Okay, so again, they want to have tangent positive. So in which quadrant tangent is positive? So in this quadrant, tangent is positive, right? Okay, so to get the answer for this quadrant, it is negative 180 minus the angle. So you take 180 minus basic angle and you put negative in front. The answer that you get should be negative 140.2. Okay, so this is the two answer that we have. Okay, so for those who don't know how we get the negative 140.2, you can write it beside. It's actually 180 minus 39.8 because it is in the third quadrant, get tangent positive. Okay, and then according to the summary here, this is the value that you should have. Alright, I hope that you understand what I say here. Okay, alright, so this is what we have for part A. Okay, then now we continue to part number B. Okay, so part B. Secant theta equals negative 1 over 5. Secant theta is 1 over cos. So 1 over cos theta equals to negative 1.5. And then cos theta is negative 1 over 1.5. Okay, but when I want to get the basic angle, don't press the negative sign in your calculator when you want to get a basic angle. Ignore all the negative sign for the basic angle, alright? So for the basic angle that we get here, it should be 48.2. Okay, then now, again, for first two quadrant, they are asking for cos negative. So the second quadrant should be cos negative. When you want to get an answer from here, it should be 180 minus theta. Second quadrant, right? Positive angle. So 180 minus theta. Therefore, the first answer that you have should be 180 minus theta, which is 131.8. Alright, and after that, they're asking for 0 until negative 180. So you should look for these two quadrants, and they want cos negative. Cos negative, again, it is in the third quadrant, and when you want to get an answer, you should look at this one for negative angle. So you should take 180 minus basic angle. So take note, the theta is always a basic angle. So 180 minus basic angle, and then you put the negative in front. Therefore, you should get negative 131.8. Okay, so this is how we do it. All right, then next one, the third part. Okay, so third part, they're asking for cosecant theta equals to negative 2. So cosecant theta, when I write it out, it should be 1 over sine, right? Okay, so 1 over sine. Okay, so sine theta should be equals to negative 1 over 2. Again, when you want to get the basic angle, don't press the negative in your calculator. So just press sine inverse half. So if you get sine inverse half, you should get a 30 degree. Alright, so when you get a 30 degree, then only now you go through with all the quadrant that you want and look for the answer. Okay, so again, for this question, they're asking for sine negative. So for sine negative, if you go through the quadrant, okay, so these first two quadrants, do you have any sine negative or not? No, right? Both of them are positive. So there's no answer from here. And then when you look for the negative angle, they want to look for sine negative. So both answer, both quadrants also sine negative. Therefore, to get the answer from these two quadrants for negative angle, it should be negative theta, and this negative basic angle, and also this one. Therefore, you will have negative 30 degree and also negative 150. So do you get all the answer correctly? Okay, so again, all this looks like very basic, but actually there are some rules that you need to know inside now. Okay, and as what I said before, last semester when I teach you this method, right, a lot of you might feel very complicated, but actually it is very standard. That means you can apply it for all these types of questions. Okay, no matter it's cos, cosine, sine, cos, tangent, or cotangent, whatever, so you can still apply the same graph. Okay, the same concept and same graph. Alright, so this is what I have for example 4. I hope that you get what I want to say here, right? What I want to express to you here so that you actually understand the method and the steps. Okay, then let's continue to example 5. Okay, so for example 5, again, they give you one trigo like this, one equation like this, and they want you to find the value of given that x is from 0 until 2 pi. Okay, so for this one, there are more than one method that you can solve it. Okay, some students will tell me, okay, when they look at this one, they will think of compound angle. Right, we extend compound angle. Yes, it is true, but because now we haven't covered the compound angle yet, so I want you to use the very basic, a very basic concept to answer this question. Okay, so how to answer it? Okay, again, if let's say you are interested to try, then maybe you can try on your own first. Pause the video, try on your own, and then you double check answer the video later. Okay, so maybe I will drag this down. Who knows, maybe we need to use it. Okay, so let's have a look here. I want to use the very basic, method to solve this one. I don't want to apply the compound angle formula. So how can we do it? Okay, so you are having cotangent, right? So cotangent, again, when you want to expand it, it will become tangent x plus pi over 4 equals to 4. Cotangent is one of the tangent, right? And if you rephrase it, you have tangent x plus pi over 4 is equals to 1 over 4. Okay, then now, before you continue, you need to get the basic angle first. So for the basic angle, if you press calculator, it will give you 0.245. Alright, so it will give me 0.245. Okay, then now, for the next step, because after you take the tangent over, you still have x plus pi over 4, right? So when you go through all the quadrant, you are actually looking for the answer for x plus pi over 4. Okay? Alright, so now, for this question, they have the answer from 0 until 2 pi. Okay, so I will start now. If I take tangent inverse, it will become 1 over 4. So tangent, I want positive value. Okay, so according here, you need to go through for four angle, right? 4 quadrant. But because of in our this step here, you are having plus pi over 4. So sometimes you need to be aware a bit. But no matter how, I just go through with the first quadrant first. First round first. Okay, so 0 until 2 pi, and I want tangent positive. Okay, so first quadrant, is it tangent positive? Yes. So if this is tangent positive, therefore you want the answer from this quadrant, right? So which is 0.245. Okay, then second quadrant, is it tangent positive? No. Third quadrant, is it tangent positive? So to get the answer, you should take 180, which is pi plus basic angle. If you have pi plus basic angle, then you should get 3.39. Alright, but actually you should write the long answer out because this is not the final answer yet. Okay, alright, then after that, you want to try to get the x value. Right? So to get the x value, what we need to do is that you move the pi over 4 over, become minus pi over 4. Okay, so if you try to take 0.245 minus pi over 4, you will get negative 0.540. Okay, so in this question, they want x is from 0 until 2 pi. So should you accept this value or not? You should ignore it, right? Because it is out of the range. Ignore. Okay, so if you take 3.39 minus pi over 4, you will get 2.60. Okay, so now you should know about it. There's a certain rule like this. When you want your value of x is between 0 until 2 pi, right? For a certain flow, generally, it should have two values. Okay, but when you go through like this, you have only one answer as a final answer, right? So that means one answer is missing. Therefore, you should actually try to get another value here. That means when you take this value plus 2 pi, that means go through more than one round. So for this value plus 2 pi, you have 6.53. And after that, if you minus the pi over 4, you have 5.74. And if you double check, the 5.74 is still within 0 until 2 pi. Okay, so when you in exam, right, you have to be very careful of all these kind of questions. They won't remind you, they won't tell you how to check, you have to be very aware how to detect it. Okay, so for 0.245, because you're having negative 540, so you should ignore it because it is not in our range. Alright, therefore, in exam, you're going to write this one. Once you realize that one answer is missing, then you just straight away add another value at back, and then you minus over 4 to get this one. So the correct final answer should be actually this one. Okay, so this is a question that you need to be very careful and very how to say, you need to really very aware of it now. Alright, if let's say I'm the one who set the question, right, I will very prefer, maybe I will always think on how to set this kind of question, because also will be tricked. Okay, so these are the example. So to me, all these three are basic examples. Alright, so although it looks basic, but please make sure you know the rules behind it. Okay, so this is what we want to cover for this video, and next video onwards we are going to discuss all the identities. Right, so when all the identities come in, the trigonometric question will become harder and harder. Alright, so we'll discuss more from in the next video.